everyone, welcome back to my channel. So glad that you decided to join us on this video. If you don't know, my name is Marie and this is my husband Paul. He's joined me in the making of this video today. If you're not already subscribed, please don't forget to subscribe and give us a thumbs up if you like this video. This video, obviously because Paul's involved, is going to involve him. It's basically a video that we've been wanting to do for a very, very long time, haven't we? Yeah. many years, but I think the timing of it had to be right, and we both had to be in on it, obviously, to be able to do it. We both had to come to a point that we were both ready to really talk and yeah, just tell you about us. So anyway, this video is about our journey. We've recently just celebrated our 21st wedding anniversary, and so we kind of felt that it was time for us to talk, to speak, to kind of tell you our story. As I said, my name's Marie. I'm married to Paul. We've been married for 21 years now. Between us, we've got 5 children and 3 grandchildren. Yeah, 3 of which are adult children now, and we've got 2 little ones.
So the 2 little ones are acting like adults as well. Yeah.
We're actually away from home tonight, which is really quite nice, just sort of celebrating our anniversary, and we've got the older children looking after the little ones, which is always a bonus.
Okay, how we met was this particular club in Derby, quite a well-known R&B club, and they used to do bank holiday evenings, and my friends kind of forced me or dragged me along to go that night, and I thought, okay, I might as well dress up just in case. Never know what's gonna happen. So yeah, I put my nice cream suit on. Yeah, as the night progressed, I kept on watching this lady. She's very nice, very fine. I won't say anything more than that, but I thought, yeah, she's alright. Anyway, I was kind of a shy person, and I could tell that Marie was a popular person. She knew quite a lot of people because it was in her hometown, Derby. And yeah, I thought, okay, well, I've got no chance, too nice to me. And I kind of said to my friends, oh, look at her, she's kind of fit, isn't she? I'm like, yeah, she's alright, you're not going to get up. I said, okay, well, we'll see what happens. Anyway, cut a long story short, at the end of the night, her friend was standing outside the door of this particular nightclub, and I said to her friend, excuse me. She says, yeah, quite excitedly. But anyway, I said, you know the girl you was with? And she says, which one? I said, the one who had that kind of cream bodysuit on. Would you mind giving her my number? And she kind of said, yeah, sure, okay. Anyway, so me and my mates went to the round the corner to what was a local fast food place, well, they sell kebabs and chips and burgers basically. So it was quite popular, so I was standing out there, and I was halfway through my burger, and then Marie walks along, and she says, "Can I have a bite of your burger?" No, she didn't say that really.
No, I didn't.
No, she didn't say that.
I said, "Is your name Paul?"
Yeah.
And you dropped your chips.
Yeah, and I dropped my chips on the floor, and she didn't even have the decency of buying me some more chips.
Girl!
That cost me £2.50 back in the days. That was a lot of money. That was like, that's all I had. I saved my drink money so I could buy my chips at the end of the night as well. So I was thirsty all night just to buy my chips at the end of the night. So we got talking, and she gave me a number. And on the following day, it was Sunday, she called me, and we chatted for hours and hours, just asked questions about me and asked some questions about herself. And yeah, we met up. Was it the following day? Might have been,
no,
I can't remember.
It was probably about a week
later.
later.
Maybe a week later. And we met in a bar, and yeah, here we are now.
not
23,
quite.
hold on, 23 years together?
Probably, yeah, about 23 years. So anyway, quite quickly we dated, and quite quickly Paul asked me to marry him. Quite quickly, I'd say probably it was in, I don't know, maybe within it was a few weeks, because I remember
months.
No, I think it was weeks, because my friend was like, is he serious? Like, you've only just met him. And I couldn't take it serious because I didn't feel as though I was ready. And I hardly knew him. I hardly knew anything about him. And he didn't really reveal an awful lot, in fairness, about himself. And to be honest, I'd been in a relationship, and I'd already had a daughter, and I was the only one out of all my siblings that had had a child outside of wedlock. And I think at the time I kind of wanted to make a kind of bad situation right, and I thought that, you know, eventually I will get married, but I couldn't see it happening there and there at that time. So you did propose. I think it was about 6 months in.
Okay.
And I said yes, and then I got cold feet. I couldn't do it, because we would have been getting married just 10 months, I think it was, after we'd been together.
Okay.
And my mum and my sister, they were like, you know, he's a really nice guy, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, he is lovely, but I just felt it's all too soon. When I started to think about marriage and bridesmaids and wedding dresses, I mean, I was 22 years old. I was just like, I can't do it. I need more time. I need more time, you know. And so we put it off. So obviously in this time, Paul was travelling backwards and forwards to come and visit me, because we lived like 40.
Birmingham.
Yeah, you lived in Birmingham, I lived in Derby, and 40 minutes or so away from each other. And so he would travel up and see me, and I was living with my little girl, and he would have his daughter as well at weekends. So we were never really alone, in fairness. There were the odd occasions where my mum would babysit both of the girls, but generally we were always a four. And so I guess to a degree it was kind of difficult for us to really build a proper foundation, because we've always had the children, haven't we? Mm-hmm. We've always had. So for example, you know, just minor things, being able to make decisions or debate a topic, we'd always have four little eyes looking back at us, so it was kind of hard to really work through things. And I guess as well at that time, I was kind of, because I'd been quite popular with all my friends, I was still very much in with all my girlfriends. And when we eventually got married, I remember on the day of the wedding even, I just felt sick. I was just like, what am I? Sorry, but I did. I just didn't really know like what I was doing. You just have to remember, I was 22 years old. I'd had a baby at 18. This was the first person that had asked me to marry him, and to be honest, did I know what I was doing? I don't know that I did. In all honesty, I don't know that I did. What I will say though is that before I even met Paul, I remember there was one night that I lay in my bed with my daughter, who was 2 years old at the time, and I remember crying out in my bed. I wasn't a Christian at that point, but I had been raised in a Christian home. And I remember crying out to God in my little house with my daughter. She was sleeping next to me, and just saying, Lord, please don't let this be my life. Like, don't let me just be like just me and her forever. I pray that you'll bring the right person to me. Even though I'm not a Christian, I will end up in the church someday. But, you know, please don't let this be my life, kind of thing. Because once she'd gone to bed, I was just like bored, like, you know, I didn't really have that many friends in the area that I'd moved to, and I just found it really, really lonely. So anyway, when I met Paul, one of the first things that you actually said to me was that I told him that I would eventually end up in the church. I literally just threw everything on the table. I told him I had a 2-year-old daughter, and he was like, yeah. And I told him that I would eventually end up in the church because my mother was a Christian, and you know, I felt that that's where I would end up. And he said, yeah, that's where I feel that that's where I'm going to end up as well, because he too was raised in the church and came out just kind of very similar to myself. Had a child, I had a child. So it was all kind of similar, and I thought, okay, this could work. Like literally that, yeah, this could work on that basis. And so, yeah.
Can I just say one of the reasons what drew me to you, because you remember I used to have a conversation about how close your family was.
Yeah.
And I come from a background where, yeah, we weren't that close, but you know, we loved each other. But there's loving each other and being close as a family, spending time with each other in dinner, and
I think it's important to say that bond. You were raised in care.
Yeah, so I was raised in care from 8 months old. My mother, who passed away in 2013, she raised me from when I was 8 months old. So that played a big part on kind of decision making that I made during my lifetime. But that could be another story in itself, which I did say that I'm not going to share today. But
it's only because it's such a long.
Yeah, it is long.
We're trying to.
But if anybody wants to hear it, I'm quite happy to share it. It's quite deep, quite upsetting, quite emotional, and it will kind of give you a bit of more understanding, obviously, about the topic me and Marie's going to talk about. But I don't want to use my past and things that happened to me as a child and a teenager as an excuse why I made the decisions that I did make during our marriage. But anyway, going back to Marie and her family, they were very close. I felt very welcome, very, you know, part of the family. From when I first met Miss Dow, she treated me like her own. You know, unfortunately, she's no longer here either. She passed away in 2018. Yeah, last year. And she became a second mother to me. So from the beginning, she accepted me with all my flaws and everything else. And I just felt that kind of warmth coming from Marie's extended family. And that's what drew me to more to Marie as well, because I just enjoyed that family bond, something that I've never experienced, and that was one of my decisions why I decided that I wanted to marry Marie, and I was quite prepared to move from Birmingham, leave all my friends, leave my younger daughter, and start a new life in Derby. Yeah.
We get married.
Got married.
We got married.
Yeah.
And I guess it was pretty soon into the marriage that I kind of felt uneasy. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I was uneasy. I was very uneasy. As I said, I was still a very young girl, but there was just little things like Paul wouldn't leave his phone out for me to see. I never saw his phone, or if it rang, he'd run off, he'd scuttle off and go and answer his phone. And all these things, you know, as women, your intuition, it kicks in. And I knew that something was going on with him. Until there was one day, I remember I found his phone, and I remember my heart was just racing. My heart was racing, and I thought, oh my gosh, he's in bed, the phone's ringing, I'm going to answer it. And lo and behold, there's a woman on the other end asking me where Paul is and who I am and all the rest of it. I literally felt as though my whole world had fallen through, like the bottom of my world had fallen out. You know, I couldn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was there. You know, she told me that she was seeing him and all the rest of it. And yeah, so he came running down the stairs. He was really angry. He grabbed his phone, he threw it in the water, he sank the phone in the sink. And it was awful. Obviously, remember, I've got children in the house. I was screaming at him, he's shouting at me. It was awful. It was absolutely awful. And I thought to myself, there is absolutely no way you're going to play me. So I remember speaking to my sister about it straight away, and she was like, you know, let's all have a meeting and let's talk and blah, blah, blah. So we did, and you know, my sister kind of said to me that, you know, he was sorry and that it was all over and all of that, but it was always going to be in the back of my head. And I think that was kind of the beginning then of the disrespect on my part, because I was just like...
But it wasn't a relationship I was having, and that's how I saw things.
I know.
That I wasn't actually... To me, the other lady in question wasn't a relationship. It was, as I said, to understand the reason why I did things which I'm not making an excuse for. You've got to understand my past. I was very much about a person showing me attention, and as soon as someone showed me attention and they start to act like they care about me and stuff, that drew me to them regardless. And it was somebody that I kind of wasn't seeing, so I didn't feel at the time that I had to break anything off with the person, because it wasn't like a proper relationship I was having to them. It probably seemed like I was having a relationship with them because they were seeing me, but to me, I had no, there was no attachments. It was just, they showed me attention, I got drawn to that, but there was no attachment from my side, no love, no feelings or anything like that. It was just somebody who was there. So
it was hard for me, and I grew up with my mom, single parent family. I was a pretty spoiled kid, and I would get what I wanted whenever I wanted, and there was no way that I was going to allow this guy to disrespect me in that way. And so I became very disrespectful. The way that I'd speak to Paul, you know, I knew that I was in a marriage, but I didn't want to be married, and I wanted him to know that I didn't want to be married. And you know, I just became really disrespectful the way that I spoke to him. I'd have my friends over, and you know, I'd have friends over for the whole day. Like, you know, there's one particular friend that she'd be there most of the time, and Paul would come in and I'd think, oh God, he's home, you know. And he'd go off up to bed, and I'd be downstairs with my friend till like 2 a.m, just chatting, laughing, you know, and he'd be upstairs. And it's only kind of now as I've gotten older that I think, oh my goodness. But anyway, you can see why I was doing the things that I was doing. And so respect completely went out the window, and it was always there in the back of my head. So yeah, the relationship just became really quite volatile in terms of emotional abuse. Paul would say like the worst things to me as well, and just be really, really cold. It was just awful. People that were close to me at that time knew. They knew because they witnessed, even though separately we were lovely, together we just couldn't, I couldn't even tell you at that time if I really loved Paul, to be fair. But if anybody were to ask you if you loved me, what would your response have been?
Yeah.
It was always yes. Just got back because it's really quite warm in here, and we've just had to open the window.
It's getting a bit steamy.
Yeah, so things got really bad, and in the back of my mind, I knew that I was going to leave. I knew that I was going to leave because when I thought about what it was doing to my children, I used to worry a lot, and I kind of thought there's no way that I'm going to grow them in this environment, I'm going to leave. And so at the time I was doing my driving lessons. Paul had paid for me to do driving lessons, he bought me a car as well, and I'd failed my test, I think it was 4 times. 3 times. On the 4th time when I passed, I remember sitting in the car, and I leaned over and hugged the instructor, and he kind of pushed me back, and I said to him, you know what, you really don't know what this means, because I knew that me being able to get my license was going to be complete freedom. I was going, but I was going.
With the car brought you?
Yeah, I was going. You know, I was going. So anyway, I planned it. I didn't know where I was going because with this time as well, obviously I'd said to you that I was raised by my mom. She was a single parent. She'd actually gotten married herself at age 70, and that completely just like turned my world upside down. I know it sounds crazy, but it did, because my mum was always there for me, and when she got married, I could no longer run to her with the children because she would literally live just on the next road from us. And so any problems, I would just run there. Everything was still there. My bed was there, my shoes were there, my slippers were there, my night clothes.
The issue with that, your mum became the problem solver,
Yeah.
and we didn't solve the problems ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, it didn't help
It didn't help.
the situation.
It didn't help. But it's only as we've gotten older now that we can look back on these things and say where things could have been different. And this is why we're putting this video out, so that we can kind of maybe forewarn people, isn't it? Just kind of, I don't know, you may be in a similar kind of situation, and we're just basically putting out there and explaining to you what worked for us and what didn't work for us, and what maybe could have been avoided. And yeah, my mum got married, and so as I said, there was no support really there, because I would tell her everything, and as much as she didn't want me to ever leave my husband, she was always there. Home was always there. But when she got married, things changed, and I kind of felt a sense of rejection in a way, because she no longer would just be there for me. She had a life, you know, and after growing up my whole life having her to myself, it was really, really difficult to kind of deal with that. And so I decided to leave. I waited one morning until Paul went to work, and then I got my daughter out of school. I kept my second daughter out of nursery and packed up my car, telephoned Women's Refuge, and left. As I said, the reasons behind me doing it is because I was getting quite depressed, quite down. I'm not really the kind of person, or I definitely wasn't back then, to talk about my personal problems. The only kind of people that I would speak to would have been my mom or my sister or my cousin, who we were really, really close. I wouldn't really talk about what was going on, and also with my mom getting married, I didn't feel as though I wanted to burden her with anything. You know, she'd waited all this time to be married, and she was happy, and I didn't want her to feel what I was feeling. I didn't want her to feel sad for me, or not be able to get on with her life because of me. And so I decided that the best thing for me to do was to leave, and so that's what I did. I took myself and the children into a women's refuge. I needed time away, I needed to be underground, I needed to feel safe, and I just needed to be away from Paul. The relationship by this time had gotten really, really bad. You know, at night sometimes he would come in, pull the covers off. It was horrible. It was just awful. We had an awful relationship, like awful.
A lot of that time it was down to you, even though you had your mum you could turn to. I had nobody, because I don't share things very much, and even doing this, it takes me a lot, because I didn't talk to anybody. I kept everything for myself. I think at the time, if things were, if you had like a different approach, like a more forgiving side, and able to talk to you, you probably wouldn't have left. And I think it was more frustration on my part with kind of you not willing to listen to me and accept what I was saying to you, and being able to move on from that. So I think it was kind of degenerated into frustration. The more you rejected me, the more you enforced how I was feeling. Like, well, I might as well just leave you anyway and go off with someone else, because you totally dismissed me at that time. You weren't showing no affection or being nice to me, and you knew my history, so that kind of didn't benefit me at the time I know that was going on. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. It does. And the thing is that I'd always been like that. Being the last child out of 7, I could very easily, if my mum wouldn't allow me to do something or said that I couldn't go somewhere, I could not speak to my mum for a week, easy. And it would literally kill her. Like, she'd be so upset, she'd ring my sisters and ask them to speak to me. I don't know where I got that way from, and it was horrible, you know. I don't know, it was just my way of, because I couldn't physically do anything, it was kind of, again, like a mental thing, my mental way of getting you back. I could just not speak. We could just pass each other and I wouldn't talk. And to be able to forgive was a huge thing. There's no way. Did that to me. What? Who? Proper, you know, black girl attitude. There you go. Like, who do you think you are? You know, and I think as well in my mind, I was like, you know, I could have had whoever, and I decided to marry you, and you've done this to me, and blah, blah, blah. And there was all that kind of stuff. As I said, I was young as well. So yeah, I left Paul, and I was in this woman's refuge for 3 months with the children, and it was awful. It was awful because I was in there with druggies, with prostitutes, and I just had to keep my children to myself and in my room. I literally ate, slept and breathed God like every day. I had my Bible, I was reading, I was fasting. That's all I could do, that's all I knew to do. Like, I'd wake up in the night and I'd just be praying and praying over my children. They had to be pulled out of school, obviously, some put into different schools. It was a really, really awful time for them and an awful time for me, because mentally I was going through all what I was going through with Paul, and then thinking, am I doing the right thing for these kids? What have I put them through? What am I doing? What choices? How are they gonna turn out? It was a lot to deal with. And like I said, I was there for 3 months, and then after 3 months being in there, I remember one morning, because my sister would ring me and she'd ask me where I was, and obviously I couldn't tell her, and I would just sort of say to her, you know, that I was safe, and she'd say, you know, Mum's really worried, family's really worried, how are you, what are you doing? And all I could say to them is that I was safe. I couldn't tell them where I was. And my sister, every time she'd ring me, she'd say to me, you know what, whenever you're ready, we'll come and get you. Just say, whenever you're ready, we will come and get you. And, you know, I would just pray about it every night. I think I just needed that time as well with God, just to gather my thoughts and just to build myself up. I think spiritually as well, it was just in that place. Like I said, I just bedded down with God for 3 months solid, because there was nothing and no one else. I didn't want to associate myself with anyone. I didn't want my children to be associated with anyone. I was trying to protect them. It was really, really, really hard, and mentally it was really, really hard.
I think my side of that, when you was away for that 3 months, you know, it was because I was in Derby at the time. I was basically going to work, and kind of shutting myself down as well, emotionally and mentally. I went to a darker place, kind of hating myself and beating myself up and just doing stupid things. And because I had nobody in Derby, it was really, really hard for me, because Marie's family wouldn't talk to me. Mom was still talking to me, but obviously she wasn't happy because I was the reason why her daughter had to come out of Derby, so that got a bit frosty. And I had different visitors coming around to the house at the time trying to speak to me, and I was quite angry with them, but it's only because I was in a very dark dark place. I miss Maria, especially my kids. I was missing my daughters, not having them around me, because as I've got to separate the two between being a husband and being a good father. I was never at any point ever a bad father, and that's something I found hard. That those months when Marie was away, being lonely, as I said, I was coming home from work.
He just loaded up his car with all my stuff, and I followed him back to my sister's home, where I then lived with the children in their front room for a further 3 months. This all happened back in 2003? Yeah, so we ended up splitting up for 1 full year. I had absolutely no intention at all of getting back with Paul, but that he still had to have access to the children. It was really difficult for the children because they really missed him, even though they kind of understood. Well, to be fair, no, Molly didn't, because she was so little. She just wanted her dad. She just wanted her daddy, and it was really, really difficult watching her go through all of that. Yeah, it was really difficult for the children.